So like I said, I like making these videos. I love talking to this camera, and hopefully I got somebody on the other end, and I'm like picturing my daughter at the end of this camera. And I'm just going to explain to her and everybody else, or maybe somebody out there in the workplace who's literally struggling with leaders that just they're in positions of authority and it's really not their problem. They may be young and they maybe never had a mentor to truly explain to them what leadership is really about. Do they understand that dynamic model in between the leader, the follower, the situation, and how dynamic and fluid it is? And do they understand those interpersonal skills, those intrapersonal skills? Do they understand how to conduct a SWOT analysis on themselves to find out, what are my strengths, my weaknesses, what opportunities am I creating in the workplace, or either what threats am I exposing myself and my people to? And there's three questions that I ask myself every single day. And these three questions, they really help me grow. And it started way back in 1986 when I was a young teenager in high school and I was introduced, I was 14 years old. I was introduced to the 11 Army leadership principles, and they'd just come out in like 1983. And the very first one is know yourself and seek self improvement. And as a 14-year-old kid, when I'm reading this and I'm trying to understand it, I'm like, know myself and seek self improvement. What does that truly mean? And all I know right now, currently at 54 years old, I sit back and I look at myself and I practice everything with intellectual humility. I know enough going through my life, my experiences, my education process to know I know about that much in the world. Literally, I know about that much in the world. And we've all heard this at some point in time, is to live your life with a white belt mentality, as live your life as an experienced rookie, and don't think that you know everything. Because if you know everything and you're not willing to learn something new, somebody is going to come along and they're going to present some type of tangible evidence that provides validity and reliability, and it's going to make you feel very uncomfortable. Because some people, when they graduate a school or they graduate some type of institution, or maybe they went through an experience and they treat knowledge as a one-time experience, but it's not. Gaining and obtaining and seeking knowledge, that's that seeking responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions. You have a moral obligation to mentally grow every single day. That's a daily practice, because without it, you can't perform an honest assessment on what you truly know. And you've got to ask yourself, or either I have to ask myself, am I operating off of a belief and not knowledge? Because if I do this, the belief that I have, it may not be any good. It may not be accurate. And I might be out there making a fool of myself, going around assuming this and assuming that. So here are the three questions that I ask myself every single day. The very first one is, am I operating off of a belief instead of knowledge? And what that means is I introduced that knowledge, that belief and knowledge gap. Am I operating off of something that's inside my head? And if I hear something, have I gone and researched it, or do I just take that information at face validity and I just run with it? Because I've done that before. I've done that before with integrity, and I had a belief that every leader above me was knew and followed the rules, specifically in the Army. And that got me burned, that got me crushed, that got me absolutely destroyed. And I thought every field grade officer, I thought every general officer, and I thought every high level ranking civilian employee, and I thought every single lawyer, judge, whatever, I thought they all were going to operate off integrity. And then the results that I got were absolutely just catastrophic. They were. And the very first thing that I didn't go back and look at them. I went back and looked at myself and I said, what repeated errors in judgment am I making on a consistent basis? I was operating purely off of emotional belief. I had a feeling that these people were going to do right. And then we can start looking at, some of the things that are coming out of the church, some of the things that are coming out of government, our political officials. You got individuals that have a past. We all have a past, and I'm not going to judge anybody, but literally don't jump into a situation to where you take information at face validity. It is very important that you scrutinize things that people say. Ask questions, because you want to be able to measure how they respond to you. So, question two, and this is where I come in and I start looking at Socratic thinking. And I ask myself on a daily basis, am I better today than I was yesterday? That means I have to go back and check my knowledge from yesterday. What did I learn yesterday? Am I applying that today so that I can be in a better position than I am tomorrow? Because the standard is always increasing. And what I have to do is, if I suck today, I have to truly admit that I did not do what I said I was going to do today. And I do have days, I'm going to be honest with you, I do have days where I'm like that. And then I'll be like, dude, it's almost the end of the day. Go and read 5 pages before you go to bed. And literally, if I have a lazy day, and I have had absolutely lazy days where I don't want to do nothing, and before I go to bed, I will read a paragraph that I've never read before, and I'm like, yep, I'm better. I'm better today. I'm that much more improved. And I'll do that because I refuse to wake up tomorrow morning knowing that with all these books and all these research articles that I have, that I can't sit down for 5-10 minutes and read a page and learn something new, because that one page is going to turn into 15 pages. And that's that steady progress towards the attainment of the goal of being better. Remember, it's about seeking responsibility and taking responsibility for your actions, knowing yourself and seeking self-improvement. And finally, question three, it rolls around and says, have I improved? Is there a measurable improvement of my behavior, and does it matter? Is it moving me towards the progression, towards the attainment of the goal? Now, I explained a while back in some other videos, my goal is my family. My goal is my wife. That is my ultimate goal. And so I have to ask, if I'm not progressing towards the attainment of the goal, then what are the consequences that I'm producing? What foundation am I laying for my future? If I'm moving in the right direction, I'm good to go. But if I'm not, hey, that's not a good thing. Because if I'm not progressing towards the attainment of my goal, then I'm not producing self-awareness. And what I like to call that is, I have become stagnant like pond water. I'm sitting still, and complacency produces casualties. Because in this dog eat dog world that we live in, things move very, very fast, and you have to move fast also. So at the end of the day, when we close all this out, you've got to ask yourself those three hard questions. Tell the truth, do not lie. Drop it in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking right now. You know the deal. If you don't want to drop it in the comments, go to my website, shoot me an email, give me a phone call. Visit me on this channel on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, because Monday's all about the know, Wednesday's about the be, Friday's always about execution and the do. And I look forward to seeing you.